Hi, hey, hello, how's it going? It's Emily. And today we're really going to hope that the mic is doing its job pinned to my shirt. I normally have it on this thing, but this is going to be a two-hand operation for this video. So we're going to hope that the audio is still good, fingers crossed. And today we're doing the mid-year book A Freak Out Tag, which is just a series of questions to kind of check in on how reading has been going this year. And I think it really gets to the heart of what I've been enjoying, what's made me happy, what's made me cry, what I'm excited about, what plans are coming up. And so I think it's a really fun tag to do in the middle of the year. So I really like to do this tag, and I am surrounded by books, which is honestly my favorite way to be. But later Emily is going to have a not fun time but putting all these back on the shelves. But editing Emily will thank me for not having to put all of these book covers up in editing. So you're welcome, editing Emily. And so let's get started, shall we? So the first question just kind of jumps right in. What is the best book you've read so far this year? And normally I put a bunch here because it is extremely hard to narrow down. And that was still the case this year, but I realized that for a lot of these, I can put quite a few of these books in different slots and as answers to different questions. So really just take basically most of my answers to these questions as huge recommendations and things that I absolutely loved this year. But we're just going to go with Diary Bound by Sable Sorensen. And this is purely just based on the fun that I had while reading this one. This was one of the most engaging reads I've read this year, and I just had so much fun with this one. I'm not going to be describing what all these books are about, by the way, because otherwise this video would literally be a million years long. So next one is the best sequel I've read so far this year, and I'm just going to say anything Dungeon Crawler Carl. My partner and I have been reading these on audio together, and we started our Dungeon Crawler Carl journey about a year ago. It was last summer. And so I'm not entirely sure where we were at the start of the new year and which sequels we read this year and where we left off last year. But just know that we've been continuing this series this year, and we've been absolutely enjoying it, and particularly enjoying the audio experience. So I'm going to go with that one. And the third question is, what new releases have you not read yet but you want to read? And there are quite a few of these because a lot of my anticipated releases have been sequels to books that I've loved so far, but I've not been focusing on continuing series so far this year. I've really been focused on catching up with Fairy Loots and catching up with the standalones that I have. So I have barely continued any series with the exception of Dungeon Crawler Carl. That's also part of why that's in part the default answer, because that's one of very few series that I have read or finished this year other than the Heated Rivalry series, which I'll talk about in a different question. Anyway, point is, a lot of the new releases have been sequels, and so I haven't read them yet because I just haven't been continuing series. So with that, one of them has been Broken Dove by Danny Francis. This is the follow-up to Silver Elite, and I had a lot of fun with that one. I'm highly anticipating that. Another one is Beneath by Ariel Sullivan. Technically, this is a different series, but it's a prequel series to Conform, which I really enjoyed, and so it's a continuation of that world, essentially. And so I'm excited about that. This is the follow-up to Shield of Sparrows. This is Rights of the Starling. And yeah, again, very excited about this one, but have not read it yet. There are a couple more that I'll be getting through Fairy Loot, and so I don't have a physical copy of them yet, but I will at some point, and we'll be continuing those series at some point. And that is Ballad of Falling Dragons, which is the continuation of When the Moon Hatched. And then also Fury Bound, which is the follow-up to Diary Bound. So I'll be getting physical copies of those at some point, but I'm very excited to read all of those series. By the way, I'm looking at my tablet here that has my answers to all the questions, so that's what I'm looking at. The next question is the most anticipated release or set of releases for the second half of the year. So, of course, we have A Threshing Day by Rebecca Yarros, a novella in the Empyrean series. We have the next ACOTAR book. Very excited about that. We've got The Knave and the Moon, which is the follow-up to The Night and the Moth. The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. We have Tempest by Victoria Aveyard, which is a pirate story, and I always love me a pirate story, so very excited about that. The next one is As You Wake, Break the Shell. I feel like I cannot say that title quickly for the life of me, so I have to say it very slowly to try to get it right. This is by Becky Chambers, and I will always and forever be excited about a Becky Chambers release. I have all of her books on this top shelf over here as some of my favorite sci-fi, and so she's coming out with a new book. I'm pumped. We also have Stormside, which is the follow-up to, where is it? Right here, Starside. So very excited about that one that's coming out. We also have the follow-up to Half City coming out later this year. That's Cursed City. So I'm excited about that one as well. So the next question is the biggest disappointment so far this year. And honestly, I wasn't quite sure what to put for this. I have DNF'd one book, but that was recently, like in the month of July. I did DNF Interesting Facts About Space by Emily Austin, but I wasn't sure what to expect from that one. And I knew it might be slice of life-ish style of writing, and so which doesn't tend to work for me, but I wanted to give her book a try anyway. And so not necessarily a disappointment, because I didn't have high expectations. I didn't really have expectations. I just wanted to see what her book was like and whether or not her writing would work for me, at least in that book. I mean, that didn't come in the first 6 months, but that's really the only book I've DNF'd. I mean, maybe I just know my tastes pretty well and can kind of accurately gauge what level of excitement or anticipation I should have. I don't know. There haven't been ones that I've highly anticipated that have been super disappointments or anything, or I don't know. I really am not sure what to put for this one. So we're just going to move on. The next question is the biggest surprise from this year. I've got a few for this one. One is The Wishing Cave, not because I didn't think I would like this one, but I wasn't quite sure what to expect, and I wasn't quite expecting to love it as much as I did. I really enjoyed this one. This is magical realism, and actually not, well, a little bit. A touch of magical realism elements, but I just adored those characters and adored their relationship and the competition in that one. So I enjoyed it even more than I thought it would. There's also Dungeons and Drama, which, same story. I enjoyed this even more than I thought I would. I wasn't sure what to expect when I realized that this was YA and not adult contemporary romance. And I just saw, this was also on the next one too, I just saw that it pertained to gaming, and I just thought that would be super cute. And I thought it was in the adult section when I got it in Sweden. Actually, I got the second book in Sweden. And yeah, as I said, didn't quite realize it was young adult, and so I was a little nervous going into that one because I just don't tend to read young adult contemporary. If I read young adult, it tends to be fantasy, and so I enjoyed that one a lot more than I thought I would. I will also put Half City in this one. I was expecting good things because everyone had been speaking so highly about this one, so I did have high expectations. But I was a little hesitant because I don't always love urban fantasy, and this is urban fantasy. And so I saw the hype and was like, but is that hype going to apply to me and my experience of reading it? And it definitely did. I really loved this. And so, as I said, very much anticipating the next one coming out, as I mentioned. So I was surprised I loved it as much as I did. The next question is a favorite new author. And I guess, where'd it go? I mentioned Heated Rivalry. I read this entire series this year, one of the few series I've read this year. So I guess you could say I love Rachel Reed because I enjoyed this entire series, and it honestly kind of maybe got me into hockey a little bit. I started watching some of the Stanley Cup final tournament. It kind of got me into hockey, y'all. So that's fun. There's also H.G. Perry. I want to check out more H.G. Perry because I absolutely adored The Scholar and The Last Fairy Door. So that'll be an author for me to dig into their backlist. There's also Ariel Sullivan. I mentioned Conform and the companion series Beneath. So Ariel Sullivan, definitely an author to look out for me. There's also Sable Sorensen with how much I loved Direbound and how much I'm anticipating loving Furybound. There's also Juliet Cross. I absolutely loved Firebird, and so I know she doesn't. How many fantasies has she written? I don't know if this was her first foray into fantasy. I know she's written a bunch of other books, but I believe they're more either contemporary or historical romances. And so I don't know how many fantasy romances she's written, but I do want to check out some other books she's written to see if I might like some of hers. I also really enjoyed Metal Slinger, so potentially Rachel Schneider being one to look out for. Same thing with Juliet Cross kind of applies to Julie Johnson. I know Julie Johnson does have an extensive backlist. This is the Windweaver. I took the dust jacket off because I absolutely love the artwork on here. But this is the Windweaver, if you can even read that as I'm holding it up. I know she has an extensive backlist, but I don't know how many fantasies she's written. So maybe some other genres from her to check out, so that's cool. Kate Golden, I'm excited to read some of her other series, but reading Half City definitely made me even more excited to read some of her other series. And then I'll just talk about one more. This is Lula Dean's Little Library of Banned Books. The author being Kirsten Miller, so I'm definitely going to be on the lookout for anything else that she writes because I absolutely adored that book. The next question is newest fictional crush, and I don't tend to get full-on fictional crushes. Like, I'll definitely enjoy and love some MMCs, but really what I think about for this one is kind of the ships or the pairings that I absolutely adore and loved reading about. So I definitely loved Ilya and Shane from Heated Rivalry. So definitely a fun ship. I adored, where did it go? Here it is. Matilda and Vincent from Wild Reverence. I absolutely love their dynamic, and I love these two so much. And so that was another one that came to mind. Definitely Samantha and Xavier from Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I love these two. He is like the most green flag MMC ever, and I absolutely love him. And let's see, what else? Ooh, the couple from Two Can Play, Viola and what's his name? Jesse. I loved how much I fell in love with them in such a short number of pages. Allie Hazelwood is a magician. I also really adored the couple from Go Luck Yourself. This is Cole and Lachlan. They were pretty adorable, so I had fun with that as well. So those are some of my favorite ships and favorite couples. So do with that what you will. The next question is a book that made me cry. The closest thing was definitely Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. As I mentioned in the previous question, I absolutely adore this couple. But this book was just overwhelmingly sad. And she does a good job keeping some humor and levity in there as well. But one of the female main character in here, Samantha, is taking care of her mom with dementia. And it is just so sad to see her go through that. And they can't be together for valid reasons. Or it's very, very difficult. And they have to do a very difficult long distance thing. for very valid reasons. And so it wasn't about things in the relationship having issues or being an issue for them. It was external factors, but just, it was so sad. It was so sad to see her go through and watch her mom go through what she was going through. So definitely made me emotional. The next one is a book that made me happy. So a few that made me happy included The Scholar and the Last Fairy Door by H.G. Perry. I did mention the Heated Rivalry series. The whole series just made me so happy. Like, these are all just so much fun. So those definitely made me happy. A Forgery of Fate. Where is she? There she is. A Forgery of Fate. Elizabeth Lim's writing makes me so happy. This is just such a fun story, and her characters are always so much fun. Her worlds are so lush. Her writing is gorgeous. So A Forgery of Fate just made me so, so happy. So definitely another one to put on the list for that. And then there's also, I'm going to have to give a shout out to Throne of Glass in at least one of these questions. But this series overall has made me so happy. I've been going on my Throne of Glass journey this year, and I'm going to be starting the tandem read of Empire of Storms and Tower of Dawn. So that's where I'm at in the series at the current moment. But the series has made me so happy. So I have to give a shout out to the Throne of Glass series, because that one has definitely been a lot of fun. Can I put it back? There we go. And then I also had mentioned Wild Reverence. This one made me so happy. Rebecca Ross's writing, kind of like Elizabeth Lim, her worlds are so lush and wonderful. Her characters are so endearing, and I just cared about what they were going through this entire book, and their love just made me happy. So that one definitely fits the bill as well. So those are some that made me happy. The next question is the most beautiful book I've received this year, and that is always such a hard question to answer, because I receive a lot of beautiful books thanks to Fairy Loot. Direbound is definitely like one of the most beautiful ones. Like, this cover, the artwork on it is absolutely stunning, and then I love the art on the inside, and the naked hardback is pretty cool, and then the back art is also really cool with them and their wolves. Hope you can kind of sort of see that. So that's one of my favorite ones that I've received. There's also, I really, really love this edition of Graceless Heart from Fairy Loot. I really like that cover and really love the art that is on the inside of the dust jacket. I hope you can kind of sort of see that. So those are two of the most gorgeous ones I've received. A Forgery of Fate, I think I received this one this year. It's entirely possible I got it at some point last year and just read it this year. But this one's beautiful enough that if I'm incorrect about when I got this, I don't care, because it's stunning. Because first of all, the general cover is stunning. The artwork on the end pages is gorgeous. But also, are you kidding? Are you actually joking? Like, how gorgeous is she? Anyway, so those are some of the most beautiful, at least to my taste, some of the most beautiful Fairy Loot books I have received so far this year. The final question is, what books do you want to read by the end of the year? So I mentioned that I'm on a mission to catch up on Fairy Loots and standalones. So that's pretty much going to be my mission for the rest of the year. So I have already set what I'm going to read for my bingo board challenge throughout the rest of the summer. So I've got the books lined up for that. And I'm going to be continuing very few series. I'll be continuing a couple of series, hopefully, in the summer, but not very many. I'm going to be focusing on a lot of standalones that are summer vibes, but also just general standalones that I have on my TBR, as well as all of the fairy loots I need to catch up on. So, and then I also already have my fall lineup as well. I've got fairy loots that give me fall vibes. I've got fall romances. I might continue a few series in the fall that are kind of fall vibe series. So there might be some series continuation with my plans in the fall, but a lot of it is going to be fairy loots that give me fall vibes, fall romances, and continuing a few fall series. And then it's going to be the holidays. It's going to be December by that point. I literally have this all planned out, like basically for the rest of the year. And December is going to be, again, catching up on fairy loots and trying to, can I finish them by the end of the year? Because remember, there are going to be more coming in each month. So we'll see if I can actually finish them by the end of the year. But December will be finishing as many fairy loots as I can, and then holiday romances. So that's literally the plan for the rest of the year. I do hope that next year I can focus on continuing series. But yeah, I'm again, that's not an individual specific book I need to read by the end of the year, but those are the plans. Those are the plans for the rest of the year. So thank you so much for joining me. Let me know some of your answers to these questions, especially the best book that you've read so far this year. I would love to see the best book you've read this year and what your recommendations would be based on what you've read and what you've enjoyed. I would love to hear. I will link a bunch of stuff below, including my Instagram, so be sure to follow me there. I will also link my Etsy store, just have a few things in there. My Pango, in case you're curious what used books I have for sale on Pango. And I will also link more information about how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.